153 years ago this week, on Easter Sunday, April 13th, 1873, the United States witnessed one of the deadliest massacres in American history. It has been reported that up to 150 people were killed in Grant Parish, Louisiana, after an intensely debated gubernatorial election deep in the defeated South after the Civil War. This is the story of the Colfax Massacre on This Week in Murder. After the end of the Civil War, America's Reconstruction era began. The world was changing for the Old South. Black men who were once slaved into forced labor were now free and able to vote and work paid jobs. The anger resonated with white landowners and old guard politicians, so much so that in 1872, roughly 5 to 7 years after the end of the Civil War, the Louisiana gubernatorial election was so contested and intensely scrutinized by both sides that it became the catalyst for the most violent moment of the Reconstruction era. In that race, John McHenry was the Democratic candidate and former Confederate officer during the Civil War. He represented the traditional values of the Old South that still loomed large, even in a state that was growing with freed black men and women. McHenry ran his campaign on the protection of white rights and opposed inclusion that was being forced upon them. On the other side, you had Republican William Pitt Kellogg, a man who believed all people, regardless of color, deserved the right to vote. He was appointed federal collector of customs of the Port of New Orleans by then-President Abraham Lincoln, just hours before his assassination on April 14, 1865. 7 years later, and now in a heated race for the governor of Louisiana, he still had the support of the White House in Ulysses S. Grant. This election in many ways spawned the segregationalist versus Reconstructionist movements. These diametrically opposed sides were beginning to shape and take form in this new world. The result of the election was contested by Democrats. Sitting Governor Henry Warmoth declared John McHenry the winner. The Republicans declared Kellogg to be the victor. Both had inaugural celebrations. The House of Representatives deemed the election illegal on both sides and recommended a new election under the federal government. President Grant ignored the request and deemed William Kellogg the next governor of Louisiana. As emotions ran high, a week before the massacre, around April 5, 1873, Jesse McKinney was a prominent black farmer who was outside his farm working on a broken fence. He was approached by a group of white men who shot and killed him in front of his wife and 6-year-old son. This event sent the town into a scared frenzy, with hundreds fleeing to the Grant Parish courthouse for safety. On the day of April 13th, 300 members of the Ku Klux Klan, the White League, and former Confederate soldiers approached the courthouse and exchanged fire with about 60 black men, many of them former soldiers for the Union, protecting the courthouse and their families inside, but they were simply overpowered. The men surrendered. The trigger that turned this melee into a massacre was the point where James Hadnot, a leader of a white supremacist group, the Knights of the White Camellia, was accidentally shot by one of his own men. He succumbed to his injuries. This triggered the deadly massacre. The 50 people that were initially held captive were shot execution style. The group then went into town and indiscriminately killed black residents of Grant Parish. The number of victims can't be fully verified, but it is believed up to 50 black men may have been thrown into the Red River. The killing went into the day and on into the night. In all, anywhere from 60 to 150 black people were killed and 3 white men. A memorial was made for those 3 men, including James Hadnot, the white supremacist leader, a structure that remained until 2021, when it was replaced to commemorate the black men that lost their lives that day. 2 men survived the massacre. Benjamin Brim and Levi Nelson both testified in federal court that they played dead and crawled for safety and provided haunting details of the massacre. The Supreme Court determined that the government couldn't prosecute private citizens for civil rights violations. The legal fallout did more than just set these men free. It dismantled the federal government's power to protect its own citizens. By stripping away the shield of the 14th Amendment, this decision laid the first stones of the Jim Crow era, a shadow that would darken American life for nearly a century. We often say history repeats itself, but in the case of Colfax, it's a history we can no longer afford to ignore, because when justice is silent, The past is never truly behind us. Stay updated on stories like this and more on the next This Week in Murder.